The Galactic Empire had stood unchallenged for millennia, its dominance undisputed across countless star systems. A coalition of advanced alien civilizations, it had perfected the art of conquest, not through brute force alone, but with overwhelming displays of technological superiority. Entire worlds were annexed without a fight, their inhabitants crushed under the weight of impossibility. To resist the Empire was not just futile, it was suicidal. Humanity's introduction to the galactic stage came late. At first, we were a mere curiosity, primitive, chaotic, and violent. But our rapid technological advancements caught the Empire's attention. They watched, calculated, and eventually decided we posed too great a risk. The declaration came without ceremony, delivered by a cold, automated transmission that was broadcast to every corner of Earth. Humanity must submit, or face annihilation. Earth's leaders, fresh from a fragile unification, found themselves confronting an impossible choice. The world had been healing from its own centuries of conflict, and though progress had been made, humanity's newfound solidarity was untested against such a monumental threat. Reports of other civilizations eradicated by the Empire filtered in, each one more horrifying than the last. Fears spread like wildfire, amplified by the media. Even those inclined to fight began to doubt. The Empire's fleets, its weapons, its soldiers, all were centuries ahead of anything humanity could muster. In the halls of power, the debate raged. Should humanity capitulate to survive, sacrificing its autonomy? Or resist, knowing it could mean extinction? Generals argued for war, while diplomats begged for peace. But even among the boldest strategists, there was an unspoken fear. Humanity's best might not even slow the Empire down. Then came Adrian Kale. He wasn't what anyone expected in a diplomat. A decorated veteran of Earth's last major war, Kale had earned both admiration and fear. He was known for his unorthodox methods and his ability to turn the tide of seemingly unwinnable battles. When his name was proposed for the mission, the response was mixed. Some saw him as humanity's best hope. Others feared he would escalate the situation. Kale had his own vision. "We negotiate from strength," he said, standing before a room of skeptical leaders. "They need to see that humanity isn't afraid to fight, but that we understand the cost of war better than anyone." His proposal was radical. He would lead the mission himself, not as a lone emissary, but accompanied by a fleet. Not a massive armada that would threaten the Empire, but a small, elite force armed with humanity's most advanced technology. The idea was met with resistance. Some saw it as reckless brinkmanship, a move that could provoke the Empire into striking preemptively. Others doubted Kale's motives, whispering that he wasn't going to negotiate at all, that he would drag humanity into a war it couldn't win. But Kale held firm. "Strength and diplomacy aren't opposites," he insisted. "They're two sides of the same coin. If we show them we're capable but restrained, we might just earn their respect." In the end, no better alternative presented itself. The fleet was assembled, a small but formidable collection of ships equipped with experimental stealth systems, adaptive shielding, and AI-assisted targeting. Kale personally oversaw the preparations, ensuring every member of his crew understood the stakes. This wasn't a mission of conquest, it was a gamble for survival. As the fleet launched, the mood on Earth was a mix of hope and dread. People watched the skies, their faces turned upward, wondering if they'd ever see those ships return. Kale's departure was a beacon for some, a potential salvation. For others, it was a fool's errand, a desperate move against an unstoppable force. In the silence of space, Kale stared out at the stars, his expression unreadable. He carried the weight of Earth's hopes and fears with him, knowing that the choices he made in the coming days could determine humanity's fate. Yet behind his calm demeanor was a man who understood one fundamental truth: humanity's greatest strength had never been its technology, or its numbers. It was its resilience, the ability to adapt, to endure, and to rise again, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. And so, humanity's diplomat set off, not to beg, not to bow, but to stand and be heard. The capital world of the Galactic Empire was a marvel of engineering and artistry. Its surface shimmered with layers of luminescent cities stacked upon one another, stretching into the atmosphere like crystalline mountains. Vast starports ringed the planet, their orbits teeming with ships of every shape and size, an endless procession of imperial might. As the human fleet emerged from hyperspace, it was dwarfed by the vastness of the Empire's forces. Colossal dreadnoughts and swarms of fighter ships moved in synchronized precision, their scale a silent warning to the newcomers. The human fleet, sleek and angular, advanced cautiously. Its small size, just a dozen ships, seemed almost laughable against the Empire's overwhelming presence. The alien forces parted grudgingly, allowing the humans passage while keeping their weapons locked and ready. To the Empire, the humans' approach reeked of desperation, a pitiful attempt to mask fear with bravado. Kale stood on the bridge of his flagship, his expression unreadable as the alien capital loomed into view. The Imperial escort transmitted a curt message, laced with disdain. "Your presence is noted, humans. Your attempt at intimidation is quaint." Kale offered no response, his calm silence cutting sharper than any retort. The delegation was escorted to the Imperial Court, a colossal amphitheater suspended in orbit. It was a spectacle of alien design, intricate carvings adorned towering pillars, and an artificial sun cast shifting patterns of light across the chamber. Representatives from countless species filled the galleries, their forms varied and alien, but all radiating the quiet confidence of the conqueror. At the center of it all stood Praxil, the Emperor's emissary, his insectoid frame gleaming with bioengineered enhancements. His multifaceted eyes seemed to drink in every detail of Kale and his entourage as they approached. Without preamble, Praxil addressed the human diplomat, his voice a blend of condescension and curiosity. "So, this is humanity's envoy. Tell me, is this pitiful fleet meant to amuse us? Or is it merely your last attempt to beg for mercy?" Kale stepped forward, unshaken by the jeers echoing from the gallery. "Humanity doesn't fear war," he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "We simply understand it in ways you cannot. We've lived it, endured it, and paid its price. We are here to offer peace, but make no mistake, our restraint is not weakness." Praxil's mandibles clicked in mock laughter. Bold words for a species so outmatched. "Your technology, your numbers, your so-called fleet, laughable." Kale's gaze didn't waver. "Perhaps. But underestimating us would be your first mistake." With a signal, Kale initiated the demonstration. From the human flagship, a series of stealth drones launched, invisible to the naked eye and undetectable by conventional sensors. As they activated, a ripple of unease passed through the Imperial Court. Holographic displays appeared, showing the drones maneuvering effortlessly through the Empire's most advanced defenses, evading scans, bypassing barriers, and positioning themselves with surgical precision around the chamber. A moment later, the drones deactivated, materializing for all to see. They hovered silently, each one aiming a pinpoint beam of energy at key structural points in the arena. It was a display of control, not destruction. With another gesture, Kale recalled the drones, which returned to his fleet without incident. "Impressive toys," Praxil sneered, though his tone carried a note of uncertainty. Kale's voice remained steady, but his words struck with precision. "What you witnessed was only the surface of our capabilities. Humanity doesn't seek war, but if you force it upon us, you will face a foe unlike any you've conquered before. Peace is not submission, it is survival, for both of us." As the demonstration ended, a heavy silence filled the chamber. The representatives, so accustomed to dismissing newcomers, now looked to one another with unease. For the first time, the Empire had encountered a species that didn't simply cower or capitulate. Kale turned to Praxil, his expression calm but unyielding. "Your move." Kale's display of humanity's technological prowess left the Imperial Court divided, but not everyone was impressed. Praxil, his pride wounded and authority questioned, sought to reclaim control. Behind the facade of deliberation, he began laying the groundwork for a decisive betrayal. To Praxil, humanity's envoy was nothing more than an inconvenient spectacle, one that could be extinguished with a swift show of force. As Kale's fleet maintained orbit, Praxil dispatched a strike force under the guise of routine patrol. Cloaked Imperial ships slipped into position around the human vessels, their advanced weapons systems primed for a coordinated ambush. The attack came suddenly, targeting Kale's flagship with pinpoint precision. Explosions rippled across its hull, but Kale's preparation had anticipated this very moment. Damage was minimal, mitigated by adaptive shielding that redirected energy impacts. The fleet responded with remarkable efficiency, countermeasures already in place. Drones swarmed to intercept incoming fire, while stealth systems disrupted the attackers' targeting arrays. Within moments, Kale's flagship had repositioned, slipping out of the kill zone. Despite the Empire's overwhelming numbers, the ambush failed to achieve its objective. Kale's losses were calculated, his response measured. He had survived worse odds before, and this time, he was ready to strike back. Praxil's overconfidence was his undoing. Kale's contingency plans unfolded with precision, revealing the hidden depths of humanity's tactical ingenuity. The fleet's cloaking fields activated, rendering them effectively invisible to enemy sensors. AI-assisted targeting systems coordinated strikes with pinpoint accuracy, dismantling Praxil's forces before they could regroup. Kale's ships moved with surgical efficiency, exploiting gaps in the Empire's formation and isolating key vessels. Within hours, Praxil's secondary fleet was neutralized, its flagship captured intact. The once arrogant emissary found himself cornered, his betrayal not only thwarted but turned into a humiliating defeat. For the Empire, the loss of a fleet was an inconvenience. For humanity, it was a turning point, a symbolic victory that demonstrated their ability to adapt and survive even against insurmountable odds. Kale's response had been deliberate, sending a clear message: humanity could not be underestimated. The fallout reached the Imperial Court, where news of the skirmish spread rapidly. Representatives murmured in disbelief, their confidence in the Empire's dominance shaken. Kale returned to the court, not as a supplicant, but as an equal. His calm demeanor belied the intensity of his words. "If this is how you negotiate," he said, his voice sharp and unyielding, "then war will find you unprepared. Humanity offered peace, but we will not tolerate betrayal. This is your opportunity to reconsider, before we both lose more than we can afford." The Emperor, a towering figure whose presence silenced even the most restless of the court, observed Kale with newfound interest. For centuries, no species had dared to defy the Empire so boldly, let alone survive an ambush and retaliate with such precision. The Emperor raised a hand, silencing Praxil's protests. "You are intriguing," the Emperor said, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Your resilience is unexpected. Perhaps our methods require reconsideration." Kale held his gaze unwavering. "Perhaps your Empire has forgotten that strength is more than overwhelming force. It is knowing when to fight, and when to listen." The room was silent, the weight of the moment pressing on all who watched. For the first time, humanity was not a trembling newcomer but a force worthy of respect. The Emperor's demeanor had shifted, his ancient eyes narrowing as he considered the implications of Kale's words. Praxil, who had once been an authoritative figure in the Empire, was now dismissed with barely a glance. The Emperor's judgment was swift, a cold proclamation that echoed across the vast court. "Praxil's actions have proven the limits of his understanding," he said. "Your species is more than I had imagined." In a private chamber, Kale faced the Emperor. There was no pretense of subjugation, no demands for humanity to bend before the might of the Empire. Instead, the Emperor regarded him with genuine interest. "It has been centuries since the Empire faced a challenge worthy of our attention," he admitted. "You are unlike any species we have encountered, resilient, adaptable, and capable of great ingenuity. Perhaps, this is what has been missing in our rule." Kale's response was calm, measured. "What is missing in your empire is the understanding that strength alone cannot guarantee survival. The ability to adapt, to change when necessary, that is where true power lies." The Emperor seemed to weigh Kale's words, his gaze fixed on the human diplomat. "I underestimated you, Kale. Humanity has earned my respect. And perhaps my empire will benefit from it. The conversation had taken a turn, and as Kale spoke, it became clear that this was no longer about surrender. It was about forging something entirely new. Kale, ever strategic, proposed a partnership, a new form of alliance that did not demand humanity's submission, but offered mutual benefit. "We have much to offer, Emperor," he said. "Our creativity, our adaptability in the face of adversity. What the Empire needs, we can provide: new perspectives, new technologies, and a willingness to explore the unknown. In return, the Empire's resources can ensure that humanity grows, evolves, and thrives in ways that would otherwise be impossible." The Emperor listened intently, his expression thoughtful. Kale's words had struck a chord. Finally, after a long silence, the Emperor nodded. "You are right. Strength tempered with wisdom, this is the future I had forgotten. You shall have your alliance, Kale. Let it be a new chapter for both our peoples." Humanity's role in the galaxy shifted that day. No longer a fragile species, cowering beneath the shadow of the Empire, humanity emerged as a respected partner. As Kale looked out upon the stars, he reflected on the path that had led them here. The cost of peace was not small. It had demanded strength, resilience, and a willingness to stand firm even when the odds seemed insurmountable. But in the end, humanity had found a way to thrive, not through brute force, but through the very qualities that had always defined them: ingenuity, adaptability, and an unwavering resolve to survive. But Kale knew that peace, though hard won, was fragile. There were factions within the Empire who would never accept this new order, who would see humanity's rise as a threat to their own power. He could already hear the whispers of rebellion, the murmurs of discontent. The path ahead was uncertain, but Kale was prepared. Humanity's place in the galaxy had been forged not through submission, but through mutual respect. And in that respect lay the seeds of something greater, a future not defined by war, but by the strength of unity and the willingness to adapt. Humanity's journey was just beginning.